Hi everyone and welcome to Jab and Move with your host Stephen. And we have just had obviously the huge fight between Eubank and Benn, huge in monetary value and sort of eyes on the prize. I wouldn't say huge in terms of accolades, but let's dive into it, guys. I want to go through the results and also what that means for Benn and Eubank moving forward. Also, we're going to talk about Usyk vacating the WBO bout. Now, Wardley is the WBO champion, which actually I quite like because either it was Parker or Wardley, I would have been really happy. But I want to go into that a little bit and just see what the next moves for the respective people are as well. Let's dive straight into it, guys. So, Eubank versus Benn. I was on here a few days ago. I predicted that Eubank would try and do what Benn did previously, assert the dominance, assert the authority, and try and go at him early to get the victory and potentially a late stoppage and knockout. Well, I was wrong. I can't believe, to be honest, the Eubank we've seen in the ring, and I'm going to go on to that very, very soon. But what I will say is, what I expected from Benn was a more calculated approach, not as gun-ho. I think the emotions took over him. I think we've seen a different type of Benn the week up to fight night, and I think he's shown that. I just didn't expect Eubank to be so bad. What I thought was that Benn was going to play the game he played. He was going to go in. He was going to go in hard, but he was going to be more controlled. He was going to be more calculated when he was going to dive in, try and hit with the counters a bit more, and try and almost outmaneuver the older man and try and outbox the more veteran boxer. But what I expected from Eubank was obviously jumping on him and trying to assert his dominance. And I didn't see that. Obviously, we've seen a fighter that looked shot and looked mode of ideas, and he was just struggling to even get through. I think we've seen that from sort of round 1-2. We just knew this was not the Eubank from before, and something has happened. Now, I've been listening to a lot of channels and stuff about this, and people have been almost sympathetic to the fact that he may have had too much damage from the first fight and the rehydration clauses and all the other stuff that may have caused these issues. But we keep forgetting, I think a lot of people forget, he signed all this. He wanted to do a catch weight with someone who was fighting at 147 when he could have done 160 to 168, and he's been doing 168 previously. You know, not recently, but before. So he's done a 20-pound difference there. So he's done 160. When we think for a while as well, probably for the last at least 2 years, he's outgrown that, especially since the Liam Smith fight, we think he's outgrown that weight. And then he's accepted the rehydration clauses and all the other stuff. So he has brought this onto himself. If you don't like the fire, then don't start. You know what I mean? Like, what are you supposed to do here? Like, yes, I felt bad for him a bit because I think there has been something going on. Maybe he has had some underlying health issues, which I think starting to come out a little bit since the days following on. But he decided to dehydrate himself badly in the first fight. He decided to shrink himself down to the point where I thought he was unhealthy, and I thought actually he was going to lose the first fight because I expected what happened in the second fight to go on in the first fight due to the fact of what happened with Eubank's weight. But again, where do we go from here for him? I don't know. I think we've kind of got to look at the health aspects now and see what he's going to do. I don't think he should ever fight 160 again. If they call it a trilogy and it's the same parameters again, then he's just going to get absolutely smoked at this point because he looked shot, ill, and it just did not look befitting of someone who I think is actually a really good fighter. Complete elite level, no, but really good fighter, and he'd let himself down a little bit, I think, with this. But in terms of Conor Benn, like, I think we've kind of gone the opposite with him as well. Like, he's being paraded around like some kind of national hero. And it was a good fight, and it was calculated, and he did do better. But I asked the question here, like, can he shrink to 147 now? And if he did, could he bring the power he's got at 162 for 147 to try and win a world title? And possibly, could he even win a world title at 160 with the weight now? I don't think he would. I think we've seen a lower level fight with those two. I didn't think it was ever going to be elite level fighting, but I think we've seen there's been a lower level from both. And then on top of that, I think he needs a bit more game time. He needs a few more opponents. He needs something. He doesn't need a shot Eubank, you know what I mean? He needs someone a live wire again. And we thought possibly it was going to happen this time, but we didn't. So we need a few more live wires. We need to see where he is. Again, great win for him, and I think he needed it to sort of move forward now. I still think we've got obviously the stuff from the first cancelled fight that hasn't really been cleared up and stuff, so I'm hoping that comes out at some point and we have a look at that and see what's happened. But for me personally, he's a good fighter. I did think before he could win a world title at 147. I'm not so sure now because of the weight gain and obviously the last two fights at 160. We would have to see if that can translate. And obviously the inactivity. So I'm not too sure where we are with Ben. But again, big win. He'll take it. and he'll move on, and we'll see what happens. In terms of both from a trilogy, really should be out of the cards now. It should be out of the question. It should be off the cards. It shouldn't be allowed due to what happened with Benn, due to what happened with Eubank. I think how unwell he looked at that point, especially at the end of the fight. I don't think anyone's interested in the trilogy after such a one-sided fight. But let me know your thoughts, guys. What do you think? Do you think Benn can win a world title at 147 or 160 now, given that he's weight gained for the last 2 fights? Where does Eubank go? Do you think he'll ever box again? And will we see a trilogy between these two? Let me know your thoughts. What I want to dive into and have a quick chat about is the WBO belt. So Wardley is now the WBO heavyweight champion of the world, which is great news. I like him. I think he's a nice guy. I did think he would lose to Parker. And I do think Parker made some schoolboy errors in there in the final rounds and would have got him over the line, but it doesn't matter. He won that fight fair and square, and he is now the WBO world champion. So where does he know? It's been some talk about Sanchez and Dubois and stuff. It'd be interesting to see where he goes. I think possibly it could be Dubois, and that'd be interesting for me. I'd like to see a Dubois versus Wardley, because I actually think Wardley's got a shot there, if I'm honest. It'd be interesting also to see what type of Dubois we get back after what happened with Usyk, which is interesting for me. So I would go sort of Dubois and Wardley with my preferred fight, but let me know what yours is. And in terms of Usyk, where does he go now? Obviously, I think people said, oh, Wardley or Parker and then retire, but he's vacated that bout now. So will he go for a trilogy with Fury? It's a possibility there. Will he go back to someone else he's fought a couple of times? Or Deontay Wilder, maybe, I don't know, someone at the absolute ether, maybe. All I would say is with that is if he retired now and blissfully went on his way, he's still the greatest of the generation in heavyweight, and he's possibly one of the probably the greatest, if not top 3 greatest boxers in his current generation of fighters. So he can go with his head held high and do what he wants to do. I think people have criticised him a little bit because he didn't take the Wardley fight, but that's just ridiculous for me personally. He has achieved so much in the sport. He has done so much in the sport. I think he can walk away with his head held high and enjoy his family, his fortune, and yeah, and just go and relax and do what he wants to do in life. Let me know your thoughts, guys. What do you think here? Benn, Eubank, what was your thoughts? Do you want to see a trilogy? And what do you think? Is Eubank now shot? And does Benn win a world title? In terms of the WBO, who does Wardley face? I fancy Dubois. I think that'd be a really good fight. Let me know your thoughts. And Usyk, in terms of where he goes next, I think he should retire, but do you think he'll possibly take a big fight like a trilogy for Fury or something? What do you reckon, guys? Please let me know in the comments. Please do not forget to also like, comment and subscribe, and I look forward to seeing you on the next one. Take care.